Well, today we do have our guest, Menno. We are going to introduce him again. Welcome back.
Hello, hello. How are you?
I'm good. How about you? I've heard you're having a bit of a recovery from medical stuff.
Yeah, you can say that. uh,
Well,
Circumstances are I mean better than a week before. So
yes, we won't get into all those details, but I'm really glad that you're feeling better.
yeah,
Um,
if I'm standing up a little bit, then you know what's what's
yes,
going on.
yes, we won't have you, stay planted the whole time. So,
Perfect.
we are having Menno on, of course, to talk about this topic because he has experience in the music industry, from what I understand. Correct me if I'm wrong. Go
That's
ahead and
right.
tell us
Yeah,
about that.
yeah. I mean, from a young age, I love music. I was a fan of the CCM of Christian music. I started listening to. Uh, so I think I was like 15 or so that I started listening to Petra.
Mm.
Maybe you're familiar with the band. They're a little bit older, but that's I love the music. The first tape that I took that from my brother's drawer, and
Oh.
that's a whole different story. But
Mm-hmm.
I copied it, and then my brother was like, "I hear my music in somebody else's room."
Mm-hmm.
So that's how it started. And I was 16 years old or so, and I was already talking with those band members of Petra by email somehow.
Oh, wow.
And I told the lead singer John Slitt, I told him one day I'm going to organize a concert for you guys.
Mm.
And I don't know why I said it. It was just like the passion, of course, but I think it was like almost 9 years later. I organized the first concert, and he remembered that I told him that. So that was interesting. Um, but yeah, the journey itself. I mean, I managed artists. I did bookings, tour art, tour management, road management,
Mm.
concert promotion. So all kinds of things in the Christian music industry, and from a young age. So I started. My first concert was when I was 18 years old,
Mm-hmm.
and that was in our own church. One of another rock band called Guardian, lesser known, but they're also in the same realm as Petra and Striper. I worked with Striper as well.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so quite a few, and at some point it was like 60% I was outside of my home country because I was touring. So it was quite a
Wow.
quite a lot of on the road, busy. But yeah, I've done it for 18 years, quite a while, and there's a reason why I got out. Of course, but yeah, it's not the glitter and the glamour that people think it is.
Right. I'm sure we'll get to a lot of that. Now, I want, I mean, let's talk about why this is important for other Christians to understand. This topic has been one we've all probably wondered about, like what is really happening behind Christian music scenes. And so when you speak to that, yeah, why should we care?
The question is for me.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Why should we care? Well, it's very important. One, what you're listening to. Secondly, you think there are a couple of things. One, you think that you're listening to a Christian artist, and sometimes I might think like, it doesn't the behavior doesn't match up with what the display is on stage and on camera.
Yeah.
Uh, so that's one thing. The second thing, which is important, I think, also um, especially in worship music, that there's so much apostasy,
Mm.
and Take Bethel music as an example. They have Bethel believes in a canonic Jesus. That's not the Jesus of the Bible. They believe that he laid down his divinity. Well, that's heresy.
Mm.
So that's a different Jesus.
Yeah.
And they have like their New Apostolic Reformation, right? So they have all kinds of like revival oriented, and their definition for certain words uh, are different than what we would understand.
Mm.
So if uh, certain words that they use that we think are mean one thing, mean for them, like for instance, healing. Yeah, God heals, but we can demand that, right? And we cannot call that from heaven. We cannot say like, "Oh, you're healed," as
Amen.
an example.
Actually, I like that we're touching on this.
Yeah, but- yeah,
I want to speak to that because it does bother me because although we're supposed to be bold and know our rights before the Lord as his children, we seriously cannot demand things of him. Like I've seen
correct.
so many other people of different faiths and denominations do in
Yeah,
moments almost of rage or entitlement. I can't get over that. God is not going to honor that prayer. And most of the time when I have been present, it does not happen on their behalf at all because of their attitude. And when it
hmm
does, when it has happened and I've been present or I've seen videos of it, I actually know that it was Satan who granted that prayer and not God because of the spirit that was within them.
Well, there are two types of healing.
Mm-hmm.
One is healing by Christ or by God.
Yeah.
The second one might be that the sickness has been implanted by Satan himself or by the demons,
Mm-hmm.
and they just release that sickness.
Yes.
But so you think that you're healed, and that is a real healing,
Mm-hmm.
but it was just taking away the affliction that was caused by demons,
That's
just to
right.
lure you into a false system.
Yes, a false need that they have a false solution for you. Yes, I agree totally.
The,
Now,
the overlap the overlap with false healing and healing alternative healing, and I mean it's different, but it works the same way.
exactly. Now I want to clarify for people just because in the comments someone is asking, don't the Bethel groups lay on graves and call it grave sucking or something like that?
Yes,
That is
yes.
correct. Yeah, that's wrong. And that's communicating with the dead. We don't want that. That's demons you're really communicating with. So we don't want to do that either. And I'm so glad, like I said, I'm glad you're clarifying what kind of healing there is. There's the false healing and there's God's healing and how it looks. So
And it's
when,
not it is never guaranteed.
oh, yeah.
And sometimes in the songs it's very subtle, but sometimes you hear them sing about healing that you think like in a way that they're claiming it, demanding it, or just speaking it out, like
Yes.
that they're healed. And I'm like, yeah, but you can sing 10 times that you're healed, but it's up to God that you're healed, not
Yeah.
you sing it so many times.
Yeah. I agree. And I didn't know because it's always been something that bothered me personally whenever I'm attending or seeing Christian music played. So I'm glad I'm not the only one who's noticed that as well. That it's not a godly attitude to accompany the
No, no, no.
music.
No, and that's the issue. So then what you're listening to is that the real Jesus? And some people would say, yeah, well, I sing about the real Jesus, so
Mm.
it doesn't matter. Well, it does matter because
Mm-hmm.
the artist has its intentions
Mm-hmm.
with the music and with the lyrics and with the music itself. Um, and secondly, you're supporting uh, money wise, you're supporting their ministry.
Oh yeah.
So if you buy their music, if you stream their music, if you sing it in your church,
Mm-hmm.
you're you're even if you're against Bethel,
Yeah.
if you sing Bethel songs, you
Mm-hmm.
endorse them, and basically you finance their heresy.
Yes. Yes.
Maybe it's very harsh to say it that way, but it is truth cannot be sugar coated. I'm
Yes.
sorry.
Yeah. It's true. And I feel strongly about that kind of music as well, not being promoted with our monetary funds as people to support it. And
And, and I would say there's a third thing as well,
mm-hmm.
and that is the hypnotic um, seduction
Yes.
uh, with the music, because the problem that you also see with music is that it bypasses your brain. So even Bethel itself, like I think Bill Johnson would say that music speaks to the heart, and he's fully aware that he's doing that, right? And
Mm-hmm.
he's preaching heresy, false
Yep.
teaching, and wolf in sheep's clothing. So it's purposely done.
Yes.
Um, and and there's another group called IHOP,
Hmm.
not the pancakes,
Right.
but the International House of Prayer.
Oh.
That's all connected with New Apostolic Reformation churches. But they have an artist called Misty Edwards, and some others, and they are really also very hypnotic. So somebody sent their songs to a real hypnotist,
Yes.
just to clarify, like, hey, uh, is this hypnotism, or is this just music? And it came back with a very clear answer that it was hypnosis,
Yeah.
hypnotism,
Mm-hmm.
that you numb the brain, and everything that afterwards it will just absorb the message, so you will absorb the heresy basically that's been taught.
Yes.
Sorry.
So, well, I don't know if you've heard my story, but I was deeply into music. Music affects me deeply because I was
Yeah.
in the hip hop music world in college. I was a dancer and it moved me. Like I didn't exactly know all the time, a lot of the times, what I was doing. It just would move for me, like it would move my body. And then I would realize later, once I was walking off the stage or so on, what I had done. I had to ask someone, what did I do? And so I can understand when you're talking about the rhythm of these songs because they're definitely that kind of hypnotic rhythms that actually do, and beats that overtake you, that is emotionally driven and just
Yep.
taps straight into the mind without your frontal lobe working and going, what did they just say? Like you're saying, it gets past the message of the heresies they're preaching to your mind and just preaches to that fleshly, carnal part within you. And it's the breathy, the breathy vocals, the ones that just sound like they're just covering it all up. It's like flowers that they're just putting over junk.
Yeah,
Like,
absolutely. Well, and it's very, very interesting that you just said the breathy songs. I listened to Christian Berdal,
yeah.
the whole series of the Dilemma. What was it?
Yes. Let's see, let me try to remember. The,
Something with,
distraction dilemma.
yes.
Yeah.
And he picked somebody from the public and from the crowd, and just was singing, if I sang in their ears, like, "Hello,
Yeah.
how do you feel when I do this?"
Yeah.
But that's what you're listening to with songs the whole time. So
Mm-hmm.
it's like it's very sensual. So how he explains it is very interesting. Like, wow, I never thought about this, but yeah, you're right. It
Mm-hmm.
is very, very sensual. And I
Yeah.
always thought, like, what do they mean with sensual? Because it's a song, right? But now
Mm-hmm.
how he displayed it is like, yeah, ew. It's kind of creepy how that feels.
Yeah.
If you take away the music, right? If you take away the whole lights and all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, so, but yeah, it's uh, so hypnosis is definitely uh, an ingredient that you see in music, and the rhythms that you just mentioned,
Mm-hmm.
and it has it has its roots. Where is it coming from? And it's coming from voodoo and from African rituals, and it
Yep.
has been brought over.
Yes. And that's what I found out was that, it would always be when certain rhythms would start climaxing, it would get really quick, and then you would really lose control somehow. Like it just would make you dip into this unconscious type of freeing of yourself and
Yeah,
everything, and your body was freed too. But I learned that's voodoo. Actually, it was a high level of voodoo that you're practicing when they usually do a heart sacrifice, when they go in for the heart, because you flail with your rib cage open for that music to cause you to do that.
that's very interesting that you say that. I used to go when I was younger and not wise. I went to
Uh oh.
EDM parties, and
Hold on just a
you
minute. We
still
have the signals breaking up a
you
little bit.
hear me?
Yes, try again, real
Okay,
quick.
okay. So when I was younger, I went to those EDM parties, so dance party, trance parties, and
Okay.
that's exactly what you mentioned. They build up to the climax, and then it's like, and then boom, and then that feeling that's like, oh,
Yeah.
the explosion, the whole idea. But knowing now what that does, what it means, it's like, man, that's
Yeah.
crazy. Yeah,
It's it was very enlightening when I finally realized what was happening to me, what religion it comes from in the African voodoo or tribal uh, religions, I guess, and how bad
yeah.
it was, and how much I was turning my back on God when I'd allow that to happen. And so, anyway, Satan, of course, is the king of all this. He was the choir director. Not that music is all bad. God made music too. He says he sings
Mhm.
over us in a certain verse. And so there is good music, there is bad music. It's hard to explain all of that, but we're talking about certain elements of this, the beat, the breathiness, the sensualness. It's almost what you were explaining actually reminds me, and forgive me for this, but I am a female as well. And I've seen other women do this to men, but it's almost as though you're in the red light district somewhere and there's like a prostitute coming by your ear and just like, hey, because it does, it just kind of whispers in your ear and you're like, ooh, like,
Yeah,
and if you're a woman too, it's a man, it doesn't matter if it's a man or a woman in some ways for either one of us, because music, it can be either one and you're still drawn to it. So the first time I heard about this, just so you know, anybody who's out there who's viewing, they can go check out Ivor Meyer's Sonic Warfare sermon that he did, because he's a pastor. He came out of the hip hop world as well. I and Mikey and even Tilla from School for Prophets, we all very strongly can relate to each other from where we come from. And so that's a good story. Tilla has his documentary from his life as well, where he came from as a rap battle artist. And I don't know. So someone said ASMR as well.
was he like hip hop mainstream or Christian even?
Mainstream. This was
Mainstream,
mainstream.
yeah.
It was rough.
So yeah, okay, yeah, I haven't seen it, so
Yeah.
I will I will later. But so the first band that I managed actually was a dance act.
Ah,
So that we had dancers and singers and all that stuff. So yeah, that's
wow.
exactly. And it looked all more clean, but it's the same thing uh, what's the group Two Unlimited and all these other dance groups would do, right? So
Yeah. Yeah, it's amazing how and I'm not trying to pick on anyone. That was my personal story that I fell into all these rhythms and the beat and all this stuff and the bad music and allowed Satan to use me in that way. And when I finally realized what we're going to be talking about here is I don't know, how we think that music and the way that's being performed and the people who are performing it actually are so different than mainstream artists and music. Like that is a fallacy. They are not.
No, they're
And
not.
so that's where we can dive in. If you can tell us some of the Christian artists that you have personally dealt with that were more of this day, I guess.
So I worked with, to this day, I mean, Petra still performs, but they're just they're fossils now, right?
Okay.
But artists, I mean, I did some work with Switchfoot.
Okay.
I um, and Phil Wickham was there as well.
Okay.
I did work with Brian Welch from Korn
Okay.
when he became a Christian.
Okay.
Uh, Kevin Max, uh, hot topic now with Tait,
Oh,
where we will delve into
okay.
uh, later, right? So, but yeah, those artists and some Dutch artists that I've been working with, of course, where I'm originally from. I
Mm-hmm.
worked with Everlife, a band from Nashville, Three Sisters. They were on Disney Records.
Mm.
Let's see what else. Um, Delirious. I
Delirious.
did the first big concert ever concert in the Netherlands with them. Um, so yeah, I've seen multiple different type of artists. Striper, of course, they're still touring,
Mm-hmm.
even though they're older now as well. But
Yeah.
did their 25th anniversary tour. Um, and so yeah, and there are more. I don't know all of them on top of my head right now, but
Okay. Well, that's quite a few, and you seem like you're plugged in still to the music world a little bit because when we talked about this topic, we're going to be tackling the Michael Tait thing in a moment. You knew quite a bit about it, in fact, and not to share too much, but you know people who had been hurt by his, shall we say, sexual misconduct, it seems.
that's right. That's right. So um, somehow in our neighborhood. So I mean, I'm living in Nashville, right? So all the musicians, studio producers,
Mm.
uh, everybody lives here in Nashville. Um, and so one of my neighbors, or in my neighborhood, through work, I got to get into his home for my work, and I had a conversation with him, and he was a Christian. He left the same church that I left when I
Mm.
was in the charismatic movement
Ooh.
in Nashville. Uh, Definitely a big NAR church, and so we talked about that. And then we talked about artists that we've been working with, and I told him I've been working with Kevin Max, an example. And then he said, and then he mentioned to me, uh, you know, like, oh, that must be rough. I'm like, yeah, it's
Mm.
pretty rough. Yeah, all of them are probably rough. And he was like, yeah, I know the stories with Tate, um, and I knew something was off. I mean, there's so much going on behind the scenes.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the guy told me like two of his friends, and it was before the whistleblower came out, right? So
Yeah.
this was a year, maybe longer than a year, maybe a year and a half. I don't know exactly, but at least a year ago that that I spoke with him,
Mm-hmm.
and he told me that two of his friends were one of them with the I mean, people have read the stories about the kissing part as an example. That was
Mm.
one of his friends,
Okay.
um, and he's told me that he told me about drugging and that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
uh, he told me about the cocaine. He told me about the abusive behavior, but
Mm-hmm.
nobody spoke out.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's very interesting to me. So if you follow the timeline, the Royce report was the first one that broke the silence, and that was June 6th, I believe,
Mm-hmm.
if not mistaken. And then all of a sudden, out of the blue, you see a statement on June 10th coming for passing by
Mm-hmm.
Michael Tait,
Right.
very reactionary,
Okay.
and then
So,
he said, well, and then he said back in January, I already stopped and I already went um, into healing process or whatever he's doing. But I'm like, uh, yeah, but why didn't you tell anyone back then?
yeah.
Why are you coming out right now? It seems more like a cover up or smooth it over and oh, I'm sorry and I'm caught because then some things he didn't even go into detail or whatever what he did,
Mm-hmm.
and a couple of days later the big bomb dropped by the Guardian and Rose report again.
Right.
So even with worse stories, and all the way back, the first story is from 2001.
Mm-hmm.
In the 2000s, they had a hiatus, or how you call it,
Yeah.
hiatus.
I hate it. I hate it. Sorry. Yeah.
Those words, we always struggle with these words. So, and then in 2001 was the first. That's the first that's public right now.
Yeah.
I worked with Kevin Max as well, and there were similar things. Not the abusive part to kids, but the alcohol abuse, drugs,
Okay.
all the same. So um, it must have been, and of course this is guesswork, but at the end of the day, like if you look back, it wouldn't surprise me if that was all the way in the DC Talk era that it started.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree. Just for our viewers, we have to back up a little bit. I'm sorry. So Michael Tait is the main singer of Newsboys. He always was pretty photogenic, and he's the only, from what I understand, he was the only black member of the Newsboys. And so he's the one we're talking about, and we'll be looking at what happened in just a few moments. But we also mentioned terms like NAR, New Apostolic Reformation, and him. Menno left a church and was talking to this man about leaving the same church. Now, can you explain what that movement is and why it's something you left?
Yeah, that's that's a massive thing. Let's say so. NAR, New Apostolic Reformation. Uh, it's a movement in a nutshell. It's not a denomination. You cannot. It doesn't have a headquarters. It's a loosely connected organization with the same ideals. It is dominion driven. It's kingdom now driven, and it is healing now driven. Miracles and seven mountain mandate, basically taking over the seven mountains of society: education, um, business, church, government, etc.
Okay.
And and interestingly enough, Tate was also involved with the prayer meetings with Paula White in the White House, right? And he was
Okay.
also involved in God's Not Dead, right? And that's also very nationalistic and very Christian nationalist. So there's an overlap with Christian nationalism and NAR, New Apostolic Reformation.
Mm-hmm.
The New Apostolic Reformation, they believe the world is going to have a massive revival in a way that everyone, that uh, um, heaven comes to earth, and that we Christianize the world, and then Christ can come back.
Oh,
Oh,
wow.
here we hand over the kingdom.
Okay.
Invading Babylon is another term that they have with the book. Bill Johnson, as an example, they believe with the seven mountains that they have to infiltrate Babylon.
Okay.
But if you have to infiltrate Babylon and take over Babylon, and Christ comes back, uh, and he is knocking down Babylon. On
Right.
which side are they?
Yes, and that's a good point. I was going to mention that because if you are taking over Babylon, you're actually morphing into Babylon. And
and
so
and,
the
and that's
seven,
exactly the image of the beast
yeah.
that is morphing into the beast. Because if
Mm-hmm.
you think about dominionism, it's Catholicism that
Yes.
is the earliest dominionist movement that was there. So
Yeah.
it's basically taking over the Protestant movement,
Mm-hmm.
uh, driving them back to the Catholic Church.
Right. In ecumenical, I guess, centralism of the seven mountain mandate from the Pope, by the way, because the seven mountains is the city, it's Rome. And then they
Yeah,
made it the seven mountains are of um, different areas of living, or not living, I'm sorry, but of actual
society.
society, like education, like you were saying, and religion and so on, that they're dominating to bring this order into fruition.
Yeah,
So that's what
it's
it's moved
it's
by.
making the world Christian, Christian in air quotes.
Oh, okay.
So basically, what they force Christianity, right? So they believe that the world is going to be Christianized,
Yeah.
and there are so-called. And it's funny that the Bible is so clear that later in the day there will be false apostles,
Mm-hmm.
right, and false prophets.
Yeah.
And I mean, did you see an apostle lately? Did you see an apostle in the last 2,000 years after the last one died? Like
No.
with the big A, right? No. And all of a sudden, they pop on the scene, and they need to govern the church.
Yeah, no.
Really?
Yeah. And it's not going to happen that way. The Bible doesn't talk about it that way. For all of us to all of a sudden become Christian before Christ comes, that you can invade Babylon, we all have a choice to make. And unfortunately, a lot of the people will not be saved. It says only those who are following the straight and narrow path will make it,
Hmm.
the remnant people.
Yeah.
So, whatever they're preaching is not biblically sound, even though they think they're so Christianized, as you said, Christianized. And
Hmm.
so it's a huge lie and deception for many following. And it's put into our music. This is a mission that they took on to use the music as a driving force to do so. That is why we're mentioning it. It's part of this. So,
Yeah.
without further ado, I think let's look at Michael Tait's confession that he put out publicly. Let me go to this. I have to zoom up real quick. Okay. I will go ahead and read parts of this. This was on Instagram, by the way, right from Michael Tait on June 10th, 2025. It says recent reports of my reckless and destructive behavior, including drug and alcohol abuse and sexual activity, are sadly largely true. For some 2 decades, I used and abused cocaine, consumed far too much alcohol, and at times touched men in an unwanted, sensual way. I am ashamed of my life choices and actions and make no excuses for them. I will simply call it what God calls it, sin. I don't blame anyone or anything but myself. While I might dispute certain details in the accusations against me, I do not dispute the substance of them. When I abruptly left Newsboys in January, I did so to get help. I was not healthy, physically or spiritually, and I was tired of leading a double life. I spent 2 weeks at a treatment center in Utah receiving help that may have saved my life from ultimate destruction. I have been clean and sober since, though I still have lots of hard work ahead of me. So I'm going to just leave it there. I don't want to go over all of this, but I just want to start with that being understood that he left the Newsboys. Most people didn't know that, but he actually left. I think it was under the kind of like this disguise of him retiring and or just leaving for no reason. And then all of a sudden, this came out as a confession of why. Do you have anything to
Yeah.
add to that or?
Well, there's a few things here. So what I already mentioned, the 10th it came out, and the 6th, he was exposed. So
Yeah.
it's kind of like, um, but it's a carefully worded confession, right? It's following public allegations of drug use, alcohol abuse, and unwanted sexual conduct toward men, but it's fake admissions.
Mm,
It falls far short of biblical repentance,
mm,
and even more disturbingly, uh, they came only after decades of silence, right? So from
yeah.
both the artist and the industry that protected him. So in my opinion, it's a shallow confession after years of silence.
I do understand that. Let me go back to you and I. Let's see if I can. That's that screen. That's not
I
quite
mean,
right.
what I'm saying is, Tate never voluntarily came forward, and he's exposed, and only then he spoke up, and that's kind of like a calculated fakeness to me. And I may
Yes.
be harsh and maybe direct in that way, but
Mm,
that's I mean that's what I think. I'm not saying like this is truth, right? But that's
mm-hmm.
how it comes across to me.
And I understand that because I was reading about this. I don't have the article to pull up now, but they were talking about the band members. Like you're saying, the industry knew it was happening. How did they not know behind the scenes that it's been happening for a very long time? His mates in the band should probably have seen a lot of this in personal conduct and living with him. And they didn't say anything. Let's let's consider here that they were hiding his secret the whole time. His secrets. It's actually multiple ones. And
Yeah.
I'm not trying to put them under the bus, but quite honestly, they perhaps have secrets of them of their own that they're trying to hide and keep secret
Hmm.
also. So no one said anything until now, until he was ready to somehow put a little bit of the truth out there for people to hear about. And
Yeah.
I personally am grateful to hear that he was willing to do so at all. That does at least show a repentant heart in some ways, but you're right, I don't hear too much of that repentance note in there fully, but I do hope and pray that he will have that full repentance from God and change completely. But that's
For
all we can
sure.
do is pray and leave it in God's hands. But many people, this isn't the first time that we have seen Christian artists fall short of their
Hmm.
Christian walk. But many who are Christian do not expect Christian musicians to fall. And that is something I think this should be a repeated pattern that we understand Christian artists are the same in their humanity as that you and I are. They are human, they are sinful. And we should actually not be putting anybody on a pedestal like we do, unfortunately, with Christian artists or pastors, even. I'll be honest. In certain, it can happen in any church, but you don't put anybody on a pedestal. Just do not. Because I've found that there's always something. Not that that's a bad thing. I'm not always looking for the bad in people, but you cannot find one person that is holy like God that you want to be like in all areas. You will be disappointed when you find out in one way or another that they have failed and you do not want to be like them in that way. And so that's the full story about it. There is also, of course, this understanding, and maybe you can speak to this because you were on the booking end and you understand the contracts a little bit more. But I went and looked it up, and Mikey did too. I wish I could find it. I probably should have done more research on this. Someone did a wonderful video showing that the Christian artists are all signed to Capitol Records, which is a mainstream record company that also was attached to, if I'm being honest, all of the, not specifically to the Diddy stuff, but they are all kind of
Yeah,
under
yeah,
the
yeah,
same record
yeah, yeah.
stuff.
Correct. Yeah. I think it's I think I've seen a video about it.
Hmm.
And Yeah, so it's true. The all the record labels are the Christian record labels are owned by the Sonys,
Hmm.
the EMIs, and Universal Music, BMG, whatever. All these big ones that are mainstream, where Beyonce and
Yep.
Madonna and whoever are on.
Hmm.
That's where they have only a Christian label.
Yep.
They're a Christian label and it's run by Christians, but at the end of the day, it's as worldly. It serves one purpose: is making money.
Yeah.
Otherwise, they're in for the business.
Yeah.
So if it's not profitable, then they're closing that business. But the Christian music is very profitable. Why?
Yeah.
Because they sell something. They sell Christianity. Well, Christianity cannot be sold.
That's right.
Uh, and what version of Christianity do they sell? Ear tickling Christianity,
Yeah.
um, and false Christianity, which sells, of course.
Yes.
Um, and you see that in videos as well. Like for instance, Amy Grant in the past, she had like she was clothed in red robe,
Mm.
like Satanist priestess,
Yep.
with on her hands. She had pentagrams on her hands
Hmm.
in the video, and all kinds of weird stuff. That I'm like, Amy Grant. She was like the
I know.
grandmother of the gospel music.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, it's the booking agents, same thing. Some of them are standalone, but yeah, CAA, William Morris Endeavor, they're the big ones. And they have mainstream artists and Christian artists,
Hmm.
and you see an overlap, right? You see them also cross over,
Yes.
and being at the Grammy Awards, and you
Yes.
know,
Why? Okay. We will get into that in just a minute because I have questions about that too. But I have been told that actually on Tate's Instagram here, we'll scroll a little bit further for everyone. We'll come to pictures of him. Um, if I can get to his other pictures here, he's with a group of people, young people, it looks like, but he has a picture. Let me go back. I'm sorry. He has a picture of himself at Capitol Records. Bear with me. I will try not to go too quick so you guys can see all of his pictures also. I don't want anyone getting sick from the way I'm trying to move here on the screen. But I hope I can find that. Oh, here it is. So, um, the question is, how do I make this full screen? Oops,
oh, oh,
that was not
oh,
right.
nice.
Okay, nobody look. I'm gonna scroll really fast.
Yep,
Okay,
there it is.
there we go. I think it's big enough, quite honestly. Maybe I need to get a little bit bigger. And I'll just scroll to the right here. But we can see that he was indeed being signed to Capitol Records. That's where he actually was being managed. And many of the Christian artists are. And Capitol
Yep.
Records, if you do not know, it is exactly where we hear about John Todd, a Satanist Illuminati member who came and was managing Capitol Records by himself as a Satanist. And they would have all of the witches and wizards and everyone come for the master track to be blessed, quote unquote. But the satanic rituals would happen in the top of that tower for Capitol Records over the master track before it was broadcasted to all radio stations and networks.
Let that sink in, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Christians are deceived. That is wow.
Yeah. And so when we're listening to Christian music, there is the same beat, for one, there is the same body language, there is the same strange hairstyles and clothing because they're modeling the world. They're modeling the exact training, I'll dare say grooming, that they're being given by the gatekeepers and all of those at Capitol Records to even move up the food chain. They have to do certain amounts of meditation. They have to do certain amounts of satanic rituals and so on to actually get more records, more deals, more bookings, everything. It's the same. If they're managed by the same people, they have to also fit the bill and play the game just the way that mainstream does. So you have a lot hiding behind those curtains. In those closets, there are a lot of skeletons.
That's why nobody speaks out.
Yeah.
And so where does this come from?
Yeah.
Because this whole pattern of Christians that are falling and the Christian celebrity pastors, but besides that, the whole Christian music industry,
Mm-hmm.
its origin is going back to Calvary Chapel. Calvary
Oh.
Chapel is they basically were the Jesus movement or the Jesus people, right? The Jesus Revolution, the movie
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
with Jonathan Rumi.
Mm-hmm.
And you also had the Jesus music, where all the gospel artists were connected, and they say that's where it all started.
Mm-hmm.
Tait was there too.
Yeah.
Now, the it all started with a guy called Lonnie Frisbee. The movie,
Yeah.
Jesus Revolution,
Yeah.
and they praised the guy. They highlighted all the good stuff that happened right in that movie.
Yeah.
Um, but at the end of the day, he wasn't a Christian. He was a hippie, and
Mm-hmm.
he became a Christian, and he still had his homosexual parties and things while he was a Christian and leading the revival,
Yeah.
bringing in the hippie music, the music from that era, from that day. He brought into the church, and he also was doing drugs.
Mm-hmm.
You see the same pattern now with Tate, right? So
Mm-hmm.
the same pattern of and they all go back and they praise that era. That's where it started. That's the founding of the CCM. Well, the fruit
Okay.
is the same.
Yeah. So that's Christian, contemporary Christian music, just so anyone is not familiar with that. It's defined, clarified for you. But yes, you're right. It's completely the same. They all do go back to the same origin, the same founding fathers that they're praising, everything. And that's where I want to go back to these awards that Christian artists go, try to apply for and win. How is this connected in that same way to the same mainstream award system, perhaps? I don't know if that's a thing, but do you know about that at all?
Not that I'm aware of, no. But
Okay.
but it's just mimicking, like, instead of a Grammy
Okay.
award, you get a Dove or whatever.
Okay.
There might be a connection.
Okay.
It doesn't surprise me.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's all about airplay. It's all about how many times, how many records they sold.
Yeah.
Because what happens as well is that the record just buys a lot of albums back, and then you're number one. It's the same with books.
Mm-hmm.
They manufacture, the ones that they groomed.
Yep.
They get to the top, and the others have no chance.
That's right. That's right. And so
It works in the same way.
yes, it does work the same way. And that's what I was going to point out. And I like that you answered the question about the award system because it's the same tainted, um, misnamed system that they've given a new name to, the Dove Awards for Christians, the same idols. So we make idols out of these mainstream artists and even celebrities and actresses. They've got their award system, but then we have our Christian one that's it's the same. It's like just the same completely, but we've given a different name and we have different artists, but they all have to play the same games behind the scenes, communicating with Satan, doing necromancy, seances. Unfortunately, the sexual stuff comes into play as well, that you cannot do that. Satanism, he doesn't care how he gets you, but it usually does include sexual rituals also. And the drugs and all of it starts to come in. But as long as he can get you to fall for one area where you are under his control, he's got you. And they like that. Even the gatekeepers will be like, at least they have drugs, or at least they have alcohol. Like that, at least they have some way to control you also. When they give you more of that thing, then you will perform correctly. It's a
Yeah,
lot.
or money.
Yeah.
Of course, and well, the money is the result. Of course, they get buttloads of money
Mm-hmm.
because of that, right? So
Yeah.
the more you get higher up in the system, uh, and you know people like Michael W. Smith, and
Michael W. Smith. Okay. Mm-hmm.
we'll see what comes. We'll see what comes out, right? I don't know. I know that he's NAR for sure. He's even reading from the Passion Translation and endorsing it. He has his own version, and
Yeah.
Natalie Grant, same way. She has she sells the Passion Translation with her own cover on it. There's a lot of overlap there with New Apostolic Reformation, but also like things come out like Need to Breathe came out later after that
Mm.
two brothers and one abused the other brother.
Oh,
Um,
wow.
yeah, that came after Tate. Fell kind of like fell flat because Tate is of course bigger.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's
He
another
opened the
one that
floodgates.
yeah. But then you have like you call it Ketman's Call or something like that.
Cademan's Call, yeah, or something.
Cadence Call.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that guy Derek Webb. He recently, a year or two ago, he went with the gay Christian artist Semler and another drag queen, and he dressed up as well as a drag queen, and they went
Okay.
to the Dove Awards together,
Mm-hmm.
and it's all okay.
Yeah. So, in my own world, and Mikey and I were talking about this, I saw Toby Mac because I tried to be like, oh, Christian rap music. Like, it's no, like, I want to have Christian rap music and hip hop music. Then I'll be holy. Because I knew the other stuff wasn't good. Let's just say that Toby Mac, eventually I found out how many different symbols he had on his CD covers and on his
It's
hands. That's
one,
right. And talking about the Illuminati and 666 or triangles or pyramids and all this stuff. It turns out he's all into it as well. And I didn't know, but I thought, why would someone put all that stuff on there unless they were actually signaling that they were part of it? Turns out my instincts were right when I was a kid. And then
yeah.
we look at like Lauren Daigle, who is new, pretty new in the world, but she's risen to fame and she is backing LGBTQ plus whatever they have today. And she's in there with them, just kind of like, we are one, we are family, everything.
She cannot find a text in the Bible where it says that it's wrong. I'm
Yeah.
like, you never read your Bible.
Yeah.
Sorry, but it's very clear.
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh,
So
and
those
then
are,
John Foreman from Switchfoot,
yeah.
he fully embraced Semler as a gay artist, and those kind of things. I'm like,
Mm,
why? What? They're all doing it. They're the Rent Collective, same
mm-hmm.
thing. Also embracing the whole thing.
Yeah.
Uh, they're now with Tate, the whole situation with Tate.
Mm-hmm.
You hear people like, well, that's because of, the Christianity is oppressing
Oh,
all people that are gay, so they have to leave them alone and let them be, right.
mm,
So you blur the lines more. That's
mm-mm.
that's the reaction that's going to happen, right?
I've heard that so
So,
much. Yeah. Be accepting, be open to it. That's why they're leaving. That's why it's finally coming out because they were oppressed. They weren't able to live the way they wanted to. And you're like, that's never a good reason. It's like saying, once a murderer comes out and says they've murdered 500 people, and I just think this way, be accepting of me. If as long as you know that they're this way, you should be accepting, and maybe they won't kill so many people. And that is an extreme example, I get it. But it's the
Yeah.
same kind of thing. We can't be, there is in no way, and I hate to say this, but it's so true, there actually is no acceptance of sin for a Christian. God doesn't accept it. And for people who really want to stick to their sinful passions like that, as a Christian, you cannot accept it either. And so you
So,
can't.
one other thing, in and that's what was mind-boggling to me. I was driving in Nashville for I don't know why, what the reason was. It was a year, 2 years ago, and I'd never paid attention until I was diving into the Freemasonry stuff. But Nashville is a hub, a massive Freemason hub. They have a
Mm,
massive Grand Lodge on Broadway, very close to the SBC Church, where a lot of pastors are Freemasons too,
mm,
uh, mind you. Also headquartered in Nashville.
mm,
And Nashville has the Christian music industry. Coincidence?
mm-mm. No.
You tell me.
Yeah.
um, and then you have your Catholic influence, right? You've got your Jonathan Rumis, but in the music industry, you got um, two big ones: Assad. I forgot her first name, and then the big one is Matt Mayer. He's a practicing Catholic. He went to the Pope. He played for the Pope, for
Mm,
Pope Francis back then. He he is praising the Eucharist. He's praising the. He's Catholic, and he might be a Jesuit.
mm,
What
mm-hmm,
surprised me, but he is collaborating with all the Christian music and music people. Everyone
mm-hmm,
is writing with Matt Redman, with
mm-hmm.
Chris Tomlin, with David Crowder, uh, even the Casting Crowns,
Yeah.
all of them.
Mm-hmm.
So the walls are crumbling down
Yes. And
between Catholicism and Protestantism.
as it should, because it is a facade and it is the false religion and false facades now falling, and we can see the truth of it. And speaking for myself, I mean, I went to a few concerts when I was a child, but ironically, I got to meet a few of these artists, and don't we all? Some of us actually get to, but it was so strange to see how emotionless, apathetic, really, that they were when they talked to you, and it was just a little bit of a chit chat or whatever. But then you get a picture with them, and I was always like, something about this isn't right. I always felt like something was so wrong. And, I had family members and friends who'd be like, well, how would you feel after a hard day of being on the platform and singing and just performing? Like, it's a hard day. What do you expect from them? And I said, I expect the light of God to still shine through them, even though they're tired. But they didn't have any of that, in my opinion. And that kept ringing in my head, and I packed it away for many years. And we went to someone's house that my mom graduated high school with. And he was also some kind of manager or booking agent or something in Colorado. And he knew Francesca Battistelli, just the artists then during that time, which were coming up. And it was Switchfoot. You had Casting Crowns, 10th Avenue, I think is one of them. And
Oh yeah, yeah, 10th Avenue North.
okay. And so if that's a ways back, so I'm glad I could come up with some names, but he said they're very he was very honest, and I appreciate that, because he's like, they're so unhappy. They're depressed. They are demanding, and if you don't get like their food or water for them right away, they will cuss you out. they will be directly just manipulative and abusive to you.
Yeah, yeah.
And
A lot
did
of
you experience
even,
that?
even I heard Michael W. Smith even that was the same way.
Yeah.
Um, Many artists. I always used to say I was not a tour manager. I was a babysitter.
Yeah. That's what he said. He said, I'm one of the biggest babysitters for the Christian world. And I was like, I was a teenager hearing all of this. And
Yeah,
I just thought, really? Because my brother was way big into music, and we'd always been a musical family who sung up in church. And I just thought, wow, I thought something was wrong about these people's behavior when I met them. Um, and I could, people could say I'm stretching that and it's something, but for me, it was an instinct that I know now is true. Like I was actually reading it
yeah,
correctly. And it's the same way when you watch, and I'll just speak from experience, when I've watched the video on Katy Perry and how she rose to fame and she started crying backstage right before she had to go on and put her wig on and all this stuff and then go through counseling later. Like by the time she actually made it on stage, she gathered herself, but she was bawling. She was straight up bawling and everything before. And then she went on, she did her show, and she was the same lack of emotion and everything that I saw in the artists that were Christian. And a lot of them did. They would grab bottles backstage right after they would come off of the stage. And I always wondered to myself, how many of those are actually alcoholic drinks? Because their attitude
hmm
sure seemed like it was. And it was not water that they were downing. And any which way. Again, that was me speculating, and the more tipsy they got and everything, you could see, like, people aren't stupid. You can see their
no,
demeanor change. You can see that they're becoming intoxicated and less aware of what they are doing. And so there you go. It really did ring true for me. I don't know what else to
yeah.
say.
There was I believe I was with Kevin Max back in the day, and there was a Christian festival in the Netherlands,
Mm,
and he was performing,
mm,
and he had joint behind his he had a joint already downed, and he had already half a bottle of wine downed. So before he went on stage,
mm,
and then he was like, "I want to be in the light," right?
mm,
That
mm,
song,
mm.
and all kinds of other songs. But then a guy from my old church came to me, and he was like, "Something's off."
Yeah.
I just wanted to tell you, I don't understand what's going on, but yeah, it doesn't seem right. And I told him the truth. I'm like, yeah, you're seeing it exactly right.
Yeah.
It is off.
Mm,
So there are not a lot of people that see that.
mm-hmm.
They just are delusion. How do you say that? Deceived, and they just just don't want to see it,
Mm-hmm.
or can't see it. I don't
Yeah.
know.
No, I know people who flock to the concerts and buy up all the tickets that they can for like their family and their friends and everything still. And I can't say that I have ever gone to one again since I realized a lot of this. Admittedly, I've never, I should take that back. It's not never, but I have only been to a few concerts in my life that were at all Christian or mainstream, but very many of them, like four of them that I can remember in my lifetime, were Christian, and I just never did go back. It was a waste of time for me to see them put on a false show of what a Christian's supposed to live like on stage, even though they had great voices. Don't get me wrong. I know lots of musicians, even ones that are in the professional world, and they're learning a lot of how to play games. They're all faking that they're good, and they know how to sing good no matter what, but their attitude just is terrible, and they learn to lie about all of it all the time. And
Well, you have to. The higher up you get, the more you have to do it.
yeah, yeah. So it's this dual personality thing. And I only know that because that's a part of Satanism as well, for you to split personalities and actually have to take on two at once or multiple even. That's a mental health disorder that they want you to take on in the satanic occult worlds. So they're doing that very well, even in the quote unquote contemporary Christian world. So I don't really have anything to add to this, but I'm thank you for coming on if you want to add anything to it, but we need to be discerning. And I'm really glad it's coming out because, like I said, it's not the first time. I hope we're waking up finally to it, though, because of what's happening, what just came out about Michael Tait. But I don't know how we never thought that the Christian world was not exactly the same. We're all humans, we're all sinners. You cannot look at each other. Stop. Stop and don't
Correct.
support it anymore, please.
Keep your eyes on Jesus. That's all I can say.
Yeah.
Uh, I've seen it as well, like with pastors, with
Mm-hmm.
of course with artists as well.
Mm-hmm.
I was young, right? So in my 18 years and even before that, I looked up to these people because I was a fan of those artists
Mm-hmm.
in the past. So you've been looking up to artists, and they fail you.
Mm-hmm.
They always will fail you, as I said earlier on. They
Mm-hmm.
always will fail you. So at the end of the day, it's not worth it. And the Bible is very clear: don't put your trust in man.
Mm-hmm.
Put your trust in Christ.
Mm-hmm.
That is the most important thing. And if you don't, if you keep building on sinking sand,
Mm-hmm.
you're gonna fall down again and again and again.
Amen. Very true.
So can say, but yeah, I've been in everybody's shoes. I
Mm-hmm.
for and I fought my parents even
Yeah.
because they were like, why don't you get out of it, right? And I was like, no, I love music, and
Mm.
this is my passion. And, so I know how addictive it is. It is
Yes.
addiction.
Yes.
It is an addiction, and
I
you want
agree.
more.
Yeah. So, on that note, when I was recovering, and I mean that, I mean, I actually had to go through withdrawal just like a drug addict did. Because I had the shakes and everything when I went through withdrawal from music. When you actually allow it to overtake your body like that, your body is going to have repercussions from being used. And so I shook violently and had to just hold on to the chair I was sitting in or whatever and just hold on and be with God in my mind and in my heart, and just he gave me verses. He was there with me. That's the only way I got through it. But it was just like any other recovering addict. It was months of that. And
Yeah.
so
And
it's
for
not.
me, it's different. For me, I wasn't involved in that way.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, but
Oops, we're
for me, it
losing
was
you.
more just. You hear me again?
1 second. It needs to clear up just a second here.
All
Okay,
right.
try it now. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So, so it was different for me, but for me, because I wasn't performing,
Mm-hmm.
for me it was like I needed to. I stepped away from everything music. I didn't want to. I didn't go to concerts, and still I have a hard time listening to Christian music or music at all that is.
Mm-hmm.
And I love music. I loved
Mm-hmm.
music, right? So it's hard, but at the same time, I learned how to deal with it, how to just silence, because that's another thing that I want to add to this conversation.
Mm-hmm.
We're so used now to noise all the time, music
Yeah.
everywhere, in the store, in the car, everywhere. There's no silence.
Yeah.
We're afraid of silence,
Mm-hmm.
and I think it's good to step back and be in the silence. Just be, nothing.
I
But people are
totally
afraid
agree.
of that.
Yes. So that's what I realized when I was using it. It was when I was sad, when I was alone, to escape the silence, everything. But I realized while I was reading the Bible during these withdrawals, it says God will speak to you in the silence. So we shouldn't be afraid of facing ourselves. in the silence. We need to get used to the silence in some ways to hear his small voice. And so, I don't know, it's just amazing. And I had to step away from all music too. Even Mikey, I'll tell you, he'll be like, "Do you want to listen to something?" No. In the car? Like, I usually just turn everything off. It's driving with sounds of nature in the car and just talking. If anything at all, it's either just silence or talking. And my siblings,
To this day,
huh?
still to this day, still
Yes.
to this day.
Yeah. No,
Yeah.
I can't do it very well. I've tried. I've tried turning on some things and being with other people who have Christian music on, and usually my siblings, and they don't always know where I'm coming from.
Yeah. I cringe. Always cringe when I
Yes.
hear.
Yeah.
I just seriously like, oh, there we go again.
Yes.
Sometimes you can't, if you can't help it, you cannot turn it off, right? So, and then
Exactly.
I'm like, oh, please, Lord, help me through this. It's cringing.
Exactly. I have to pray a lot and I have to keep a mental control of my spiritual world in my head because it's like do not, do not, do not, and it's actually getting to you or it's driving you nuts that the person has music on, but you're right, you can't always turn it off. You have to be respectful. But at one point or another my siblings are kind of like, what would you like to listen to? Or do you want music on at all? And I finally so I told them, no, I'd rather just have the silence. And they're good. They just respect that and turn it off. And I'm finally okay. But I do want to emphasize here, Mikey wrote, because he's in the chat, he said, "Be still and know that I am God." That is so true. How many of us are taking time to be still, to know God at all? Like, you're right. We are seriously bombarding our hearts and our head with confusion and noise all the time. And God can't work through that. You are actually the one.
Confusion.
What?
Confusion, exactly.
Yes. And
Theological confusion.
yes, that is correct. And if you are saying, "Oh, I can't hear God. He doesn't talk to me," all this stuff, how much of the time are you plugged into something like a TV? First of all, I know that's not literally plugging yourself in, but technology overwrites emotions a lot of the time. So, TV, your iPad, your phone, iTunes, Twitter, any of these things where you're listening to music or you're watching something, you're being plugged into. It's like a manipulation tool, just I don't know, what is it called? Brainwashing, like just you're being programmed. And so
Yeah.
be careful what you're programming your brain with. That's why you're probably maybe here listening to this, because some people want to know how to program your brain for Christ instead of programming it for mainstream ecumenical or satanic agendas here. And that's good. I really hope that everyone thinks about that. And it's hard. As a young person, I still consider myself a young person. Most people around me are not befriendable because they're so on their phones with their music going constantly and their earphones or earbuds in all the time. This is the only time you'll see me wearing usually any earbuds is on the show. Otherwise, I don't have things in my ears. I'm plugged into the world around me where God speaks to me and uses the world when I'm cleaning, when I'm gardening, when I'm doing this stuff. I'm present with people. You have to be present with people to be fully used by God and impressionable by Him. Otherwise, you got other forces within you that are messing with that ability. Actually, that's the best way I can
Yeah.
put it. Yeah.
Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. That's another thing. We've been made so um, self. Everything is towards self. It's not only the
Mm.
preaching, but it's also what you're saying with your earpods in is like, don't talk to me.
Yeah.
Um, you're right. Yeah.
Yeah.
We're made lonely.
Yes. And it's our own doing. If we
We're
would
not
just,
we're not made for being lonely.
yeah.
We're made for community, right? So
Yeah. Very true. All right, we've covered so many things, but I'm really glad. I did not know we would have so much to say from our different backgrounds, but have that same um, understanding of music and so much to say on it. Thank you for being here, Menno. And thank you
You're welcome.
everyone for tuning in. Yes, it's a pleasure to always have you. You always bring so much information that is mind-blowing.
You're,
It's incredible.
we'll be back with other
Oh,
episodes.
yeah, we
I
will. We
promise.
will. All right,
So many
everyone.
things.
Yes, yes, definitely. I'm going to go through and show if you want to support our channel. We know that you love what we bring. So we want to bring you more. Please go ahead and visit these links. We have Candid Truth's Cash App. We have Venmo. We have Zelle and PayPal. Right now, we also have, and I'm sorry I don't have a picture of that, but we also have a fundraiser going on our website. Go to CandidTruthOrg for the book. We got more Abby's Strange Dreams book about teaching people, their children, mainly children's book about spiritual warfare, to teach your kids how to use the sword of the Spirit and the armor of God to fight off Satan when he comes for your children, so they will know how to discern truth from error. And if you want to give to that, we did go ahead and we ordered in faith. Especially Mikey, he took that. He's all about the kids on our channel. And he went and ordered 2,000 more copies on our credit card, which was a $5,000 bill that we now need your help to cover. If you, like I said, want to give to this, please go ahead and get on the channel or on our website and go ahead and donate to that. Please uncheck, though, the tip box. They will have a option for you to give a tip. That means they take a portion of it. Please uncheck that before you give, and that will go 100% to us then. And so thank you for being here. We do have merchandise, as you know, also on our channel. Go to merch or shop even. It should be all there. And I hope you guys all have a blessed evening. We are very happy to have you. We've been talking about a lot. And I hope that you like our candidness. That's why we did this. That's why we founded this channel. We talk about a lot of these topics because we have a lot of things of this world and our media and society to expose, to showcase, and we're going to be talking candid about it. So thank you all for tuning in. Have a good evening, and we will see you next time. All right. Bye-bye.